Hello, welcome to this video about ABBA's song Waterloo and the anomalies that I've discovered in it. And I have to say thank you to Julian in particular, who pointed out one or two of these anomalies and provided me with the German lyrics for Waterloo. And also thanks to Mozart's Piano 2, that's Rudolph, who provided me with the German version. I used the 2001 Astley version to hear these anomalies out of phase, just because it's so much brighter than the other versions that they show up better. Although I have to say, listening to it normally and for pleasure is something that perhaps I wouldn't do. I'd much rather go back to the vinyl of this, to be honest. It's a much more relaxing sound to listen to. I checked against Tretor's 1994 Thank You for the Music version of this, because my gold CD unfortunately is damaged at this point, so I didn't think that that was fair to use that. Now, this song is a complete conundrum to me, really, in trying to work out which version was recorded first out of the English, Swedish and German ones. I think possibly the Swedish version was recorded first. Certainly the brass seems to have been changed for the English and German versions, which are very similar. And the edits in the German and Swedish versions are much better done and much more cleverly concealed than they are on the English one, which seems a bit crude in comparison. Part of me wants to say the Swedish one was first, the other part of me wants to say that the English one was first. I definitely think that the English one was done before the German version, put it that way. So hopefully that's as clear as mud, and it'll become clearer as the video progresses. Only on the English version there's a high-pitched noise that fades in at this point. It's like a radio whine or something like that. Lasts a couple of seconds. At both of these points there's a whispered "oh yeah," much louder in the second verse than on the first verse, obviously only in the English version. Now, there's an alternative mix of Waterloo in English, doesn't have the brass on it, has a shout "oh yeah." Now, I've heard it tell that the whispered ones on the normal English version are remnants from that earlier recording. I don't believe so, because I think the shout is a completely different character from the whisper. The shout, to be honest, sounds naff. The whisper is very, very effective. And it's also very clear out of phase. The 7-inch single, I have a very battered copy of, makes the whisper in the first verse much clearer than any other version that I've ever heard. Now, at this point, there's an overdub on the piano, which out of phase absolutely thunders in and sounds really, really effective, like galloping horses. Which I think obviously the bass rhythm was supposed to be emulating, and it's really, really clever. It's a shame actually that it doesn't sound quite so effective in phase. Some crackles here, particularly evident on the English version, like sweet wrappers. In the middle of the girls singing the word Waterloo, there is an edit at this point. I think it's probably only on the English version. I don't remember hearing it on the other versions. In all three mixes, varying in how obvious they are, there are two edits as we go back to the second verse. The first one is a very obvious clip, and even on headphones you can hear a blip on the left hand side of Tretor's version. I haven't investigated the stereo positions of this, by the way. The 107 one is a very obvious dip in volume level. At 125 there's a glitch in the piano on Tretor's English version of this. we're leading back into the chorus now, and just as you get to the chorus, there's, whether or not it's an edit or whether or not it's just excessive limiting going on here, but it's painfully obvious, even on the 7-inch single. In fact, it was the 7-inch single that brought it to my attention. The chorus takes a very big dip in volume from the verse, probably because everybody was going mad singing the chorus and it had to be reined in somehow. As the girls sing, I feel like I win when I lose, and then go into Waterloo, there's a completely different quality, a different tonal quality to their vocals. On the right hand side, if you're listening on headphones, you'll find a very bad edit in the middle of a clap here on all of the versions. It's not quite so evident on the Swedish version, but it's definitely a very bad edit on the English version and the German versions. And if you're clapping along, it'll suddenly become very obvious. Audible via headphones, there's a drum beat which can only be described as duff at this point. It's probably concealing an edit. We're getting up to the really, probably the worst ABBA edit that's ever been undertaken now. Any second. Now at 2:07 on the Swedish version, there's a skip in Waterloo as the final chorus and fade out begins. In the German version at 2:08, there's a fairly marked tape splice. At 2:08 in the English version, what can only be described as a sound like somebody bashing a record player and making it jump occurs. All three versions are just cutting a section of the chorus out and splicing it onto the end so that we can fade out. Now, on the English version, it has to be said it was done very badly. It is audible on headphones on the right hand side of Tressol's version, and although obviously it's not as badly audible as it would be out of phase. In fact, to their credit, they did manage to conceal it pretty well when you listen to it normally.